Hello and welcome to Well Good Movies, the podcast that asks... Oh, God.
Go.
Forgot to press pause on that. That was scary. You don't want Heath Ledger coming in when you're trying to introduce a podcast.
I thought that was just a new thing you were trying.
Yeah.
I just thought that was like, oh, this is like a way of bigging things up after all of the...
That would fit, though, to be fair, him saying that.
All right, let's try this again.
I'm not Heath Ledger.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Are you not entertained?
I'll be back.
Here's Johnny.
Oh, hi, Mark. They call me Mr. Tibbs.
It's not the talk. It's a silly little
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Well, good movies.
Hello and welcome to Well Good Movies, the podcast that asks which movies are well worth watching and which deserve to be remembered for all time. I'm your host, David Oscar, and I'm joined by my co-host, who is as savage and grumpy as today's leading man. It's Craig McDonald. Hello, Craig.
Hello.
Do you want to be here? Or? Is it like a Star Wars situation or an Indiana Jones in which we're like, just give it up now?
I mean, it's a toss-up, to be honest. I mean, like, I'm just trying to channel my inner Harrison Ford. Specifically, I'm just trying to get like the cadence in his voice right. Just remembering back to like the Mark Hamill impressions of him.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, just don't go flying any planes.
Why on earth would I do that?
Well, you never know if you're that dedicated to the role. And yeah, we are now past our 100th episode celebration, so it kind of feels like a bit of a hangover period now. But
and you're asking why I'm like tired and grumpy.
But how are you feeling now? We're back to the sort of canon, the sort of films that lead to each other. Are you feeling hopeful now? We're kind of like approaching halfway through, and we've got some of the kind of anniversary episodes out of the way.
I mean, let's see if we're still on an actor trend by the end of this, and we'll see how I'm exactly feeling.
Very true, very true. And of course, we do have to mention our last episode, which was very special, which was the Endgame special. As the quizmaster there, how do you think it went?
Oh, I'm very happy with the end result of the Endgame special. As much as it was a decided victory very much throughout the entire game, which is unheard of usually for those specials, I still think there was a lot of tension, a lot of skill, a lot of entertainment. I think a lot of people fell into the traps that we wanted set. Yeah, I'm very happy with how it went.
Yeah, it was very fun. Congratulations to the winners on that one. And yeah, it was a well fought battle. I think everyone still brought their A game and had some good dynamics and some good team names, etc. And all the rounds were enjoyable. So yeah, good way to round off our 100th episode celebrations. But we're here now, just like the Dalmatians, with 101. So it's going to be an exciting...
That would have been so much better to do.
This is our new era as we continue our chain of movies. And of course, recently in our 100th episode, we had lots of returning crew members, but one person who wasn't able to make it, but they're back now after last joining us at High School Musical. So very much a different vibe over in VHS Corner. Once again, it's Sarah Williams. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. How are we doing?
Doing good. So Sarah, when I was doing the introduction to this week's episode, and obviously we had a bit of an interference there, my cogs in my brain started turning when I saw another file that is on this, which was the theme for our 100th episode. And considering you're included in this, I think I will play it just so you can see your inclusion as you didn't get to before.
God, okay.
This is a man. This is a great start.
Mate, are you okay?
Maybe it's like, the Tempest.
I have to see, of all the takes I've ever heard on Showgirls, might just be the weirdest.
Sometimes it's dream, sometimes a nightmare.
Is Sylvester Stallone real?
Young baby grandpa John.
I feel cheated right now. Give me a Roberts.
It's all about Eve. It's not, though.
Sorry, we'll cut that bit. We will cut that. We will cut that bit.
Oh my God.
Well, good movies.
You had the last little
Why
bit.
am I the last bit?
Yeah. There's like a kind of tradition, almost of having like some sort of gasp or like frustration in the Endgame sort of intros.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of had to carry on the Julia Roberts legacy in that sense. I couldn't just choose one part of it.
Oh, that was great. It was a great moment. So I'm glad you used that in the intro. It's great.
Yeah. So it was a great way of reminiscing about many of the great times we've had on the podcast. But yeah, how different a vibe do you feel this is, going from High School Musical last time to now Witness?
I mean, I'd like to see Witness as a musical. Let's bring that to Broadway. It's very totally different. So you guys have really sort of thrown me at either end of the scale on this one. So,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
you guys. We had absolutely no control over this.
it's under your name, therefore I'm saying it's you guys. But yeah, the podcast has taken us then a different direction from earlier this year. So yeah, it's interesting to see where it goes. But this is going to be very different.
Yeah, and you, Craig, were kind of on the same wavelength in terms of some of the stuff that must have been popping up on your socials, because speaking of things that you wouldn't think would become a musical, which have, you're saying Witness as a musical. I think you sent me the link to Opening Night musical, and Craig also made me aware of this. And then Craig has also had some breaking news updates just today.
Yeah, it literally got cancelled today.
Yes, I did see that. After a month, is it? I think it's been cancelled.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I was low-key excited for it, but oh well.
It looked quite low budget. It looked like a strange kind of musical adaptation, but oh well. I guess the only way you can experience that film now is the crazy movie version. So go check it out, and go check our conversation all about it. But yeah, good to have you back, Sarah. How is VHS Corner looking? It might have a few more books in it, just because Di has recently been in there talking about Lord of the Rings. So,
oh yeah, there's definitely some kind of sort of fantasy gothic. It's a bit more kind of, it's got an ethereal feeling to it. And obviously we're sort of going back a bit more from High School Musical. So, there's it's full of VHSs in this one.
Yeah, the 80s vibe is kind of like seeping back in. Okay, cool. Well, we can't wait to talk about today's film with you. But next, so we're going to go to a very special guest, which is joining us. So to kick off our new century of episodes, as we're putting it, we are welcoming somebody who is brand new to the podcast. So it is YouTuber and reviewer Aaron Gillingham, also known as Aaron at the Movies. And yes, this is going just as well as intro as my recent intros have gone.
And yet he will just cut this, as opposed to my mistakes, which just absolutely stay in for the anniversary.
To be fair, I did keep. There was no way of me getting around Sean Benham in the last one, so that is in there. But yeah, sorry, Aaron, I got your surname and first name combined there, which it was kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning. I overthought it. So yes, please welcome Aaron at the Movies. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Aaron.
Hi, I will happily take Alan from now on. Thank you.
We did cover Thunderbirds at one point. Maybe it's Alan Tracy.
He's not a good character in that film, though. Don't insult our guests.
No, and you don't have like blonde hair or anything, so there's no visual links here at all.
I can dye it. These things can be rectified.
So how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm okay. I'm still recovering from yesterday's episode of X-Men '97, but I'm good.
That was an intense one, yeah. For Marvel animation, especially, is something which is quite rare for them to go so savage, I guess. But at this point, many people might have seen it go even more savage. It'll be further down the line. So for everyone at home, can you please just introduce us to what you do, your YouTube channel, and a bit of a overview as you as a movie fan?
Yeah, so my name's Aaron, not Alan.
You've made it so I can't edit that out now.
We will keep it in as much as we can. I've been doing, my YouTube channel is Aaron at the Movies. I've been doing it for I think this is my 9th year of doing it now.
Nice.
I started off doing just regular reviews of stuff, but now I just kind of talk about whatever films I want to talk about. It makes it much easier, my life a lot easier, because it means I can just do what I want to do and not have to whatever's new or whatever's relevant. So yeah, I do that. And in the last year or so, I've got into actual I don't know what you called it, like film journalism writing. So I've written for the Cinematique website, I've written for Film Hounds magazine, and I'm starting to like branch out with that as well. So I guess I'm a jack of all trades, except my name ain't Jack. I guess you could put that as.
Or Alan.
Yes.
Or Alan.
By the end of this episode, there will be a list of names which you are not.
To the point you could just do your own version of the Ting Tings.
Yes, yeah. That's not your name.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And you already stated before recording that some people call you like Aaron, so we can add that to the list as well. So
yeah, Aaron, Alan. I've had weirder names. I've had Adam before as well, so I'm used to it.
Yeah.
That just makes me really sad for you.
No one can ever get my name right.
Right, so let's get into today's conversation anyway and talk all about today's film. So first of all, let's catch up on last time, which was actually a few episodes ago now, and how we came to talk about this film and what it's all about. So over to you, Craig.
Yep, so in our last canonical episode, that is to say of the progression of Chain, so taking out all of our specials, we were looking at the history of violence, and then our Endgame saw the Battle of the Chris's as Chris Connor took on Chris Maxwell in the real history of violence, looking at various film descriptions of which real-life criminal they were depicting, and then obviously just guessing what the film is based on that. In the end, Chris Connor was the one who came out on top, and therefore keeps the name Chris. He then chose to decide his own film suggestion, which was looking at not only the first appearance of Viggo Mortensen, who had been in that film, you know, because choosing actor who'd been in thing, that's a nice simple reference, isn't it?
Craig's favorite link.
Going from that into the film that we're discussing today, which also has Harrison Ford's first Oscar nomination in the 1985 film Witness. So for those at home who haven't watched the film, I don't know why you're listening to this, but to bring you up to speed of what the film is about, when a young Amish woman and her son get caught up in the murder of an undercover narcotics agent, their savior turns out to be the hardened Philadelphia detective John Book. Very much, and I'm surprised nobody makes this pun in the film, make sure to do things by the book. So, just to tell you a little bit about the crew. So, this is directed by Peter Weir, also known for Master and Commander, Dead Poets Society, and The Truman Show, all of which have gained him various Oscar nominations in the past, along with this film. But also, notably, it was also assisted directors of David McGiffert and Pamela M. Eilerson. That is one hell of a mouthful, trying to avoid saying Pamela Anderson. So this was written by William Kelly, Earl W. Wallace, and Pamela Wallace. This was edited by Tom Noble, cinematography by John Seal, and composer Maurice Jarre. So in our cast, we have a decently sized cast for this one. We have starring as John Book himself, Harrison Ford, who you obviously know for a plethora of different films, whether that be the Star Wars franchise, the Indiana Jones franchise, Blade Runner, Air Force One, the list goes on. We also then have Kelly McGillis as Rachel, Lucas Haas as Samuel, Josse Sommer as Schleifer, Jan Rubes as Eli Lapp, Alexander Godunov as Daniel Hochleitner, Danny Glover as McPhee, Brent Jennings as Carter, Patti LuPone as Elaine, Angus MacInnes as Fergie, Frederick Rolfe as Stoltzfus, and, of course, already mentioned in his first role, Viggo Mortensen as Moses Hochleitner. So, that is the film that we are dealing with today.
Right, so let's talk all about Witness from 1985 and ask the question of whether it deserves the honour of a place in our movie vault, our vault that encapsulates memorable movies for all time. So, there's a few different reasons that this is being picked out, as Craig has mentioned there. You've got the director, you've got a lot of the actors, and now we're going back, as we've said, to the 80s with a film from 1985, which we seem to do a lot. We seem to sort of dip in and out of the 80s quite a bit. And as we know in the past, this is quite a turbulent time for many different reasons, and film is often very different.
What are you doing this time?
But so often, as I like to bring up, is what was the landscape and popular culture at this time. Mainly my only note in terms of society was Coca-Cola introduced New Coke to the market. That obviously didn't go well. And then if we look at films, I think that this is quite telling to, again, how different the landscape was to when we were talking about Lord of the Rings, in which it was like blockbuster city. Here, you're talking about Back to the Future, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, the Rocky franchise, The Color Purple, Out of Africa, Cocoon, Police Academy 2, A View to a Kill. So very different sort of vibe of movies, a sort of mixture of sort of what you might consider like lower stakes or like lower budget films, with ones that have then gone on to become franchises, but still sort of seeing that theme of, police, crime, thriller, that kind of stuff going on. And as we've mentioned with Peter Weir, obviously he's been involved in a lot of awards contenders and a lot of different kind of genres, but still sticking with that kind of, drama aesthetic to each film, I think. So when I look at this at surface level, and especially the fact that it was kind of highlighted as, a Harrison Ford film, that's why to me it kind of stands out as one of those vibes of movies in which like the leading actor very much is the selling point of it. And I think that the poster kind of makes that evident. So I was curious as to what your guys' thoughts were on those type of movies. Are you usually fans of the kind of like movie being sold on one sole person, especially when they tend to do like very similar types of films? I'm thinking of people like Liam Neeson, Denzel Washington, maybe even like, I guess Nick Cage to an extent in certain parts of his career. Sarah, what do you think?
In terms of this modern sort of action hero, no, I'm not really sold on that kind of protagonist-led kind of thing. And it was a big thing in the 80s, obviously, Sylvester Stallone being, I'm not going to mention the film that I, but things like that. But yeah, nowadays I'm not going to see a Taken film. I'm not going to go and see, I think I've seen one Denzel film in my life. Like, they're not really my go-to genres generally. And I'm not really persuaded by the actors.
Yeah, I guess we've talked about it with Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, etc. But with those, they kind of still have that kind of genre science fiction vibe to them, whereas a lot of these are very much like manly films in which it is about like the police and crime, etc. Aaron, what do you think of when you think of those type of movies as their go-tos? Are you a fan of them? Do you kind of sort of take them with a pinch of salt? Or
I'm a little bit like Sarah, whereby like I'm not. I mean, if one's on the telly, I'll watch it, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to really see them. I think because the hit rate on them is like so hit and miss. Some will be great, and then a lot of them are just kind of middle of the road sort of films. But if one has an actor that I particularly like, I'll probably look into it. I can't even remember if I've actually seen any in this like weird sub category. I think the only one that really comes to mind is that that Liam Neeson one from a couple of years ago, Cold Pursuit, where he plays like a truck driver. That's the only one of like recent years that I think I've like seen. But like in terms of older stuff, I mean, when David told me what film it was going to be for this podcast, I genuinely I'd never heard of it and was getting it confused with like Patriot Games and all the other sort of Harrison Ford thrillers at the time. And I was like, hang on, is this like a weird sequel to like The Fugitive that I've never heard of before? Because I'd never heard of it. But yeah, they're not my cup of tea. But if one's on, I'll happily give it a go.
Yeah, I think Sarah, you're the only person here who has experience with this film before this episode, right?
Yeah, I saw it about 9 years ago. I remember my university lecturer was like, "You should watch this film. It's great." And yeah, I think he wanted us to look at it because we were doing like screenwriting as a module, and I think a lot of people have said now like it's a really good kind of script if you're looking at sort of act structures, characters, plot points. It is good for that. But yeah, I saw it about 9 years ago and then revisited it for this. And yeah, there's definitely some things that have changed in my opinion.
Yeah, I think films for studying always have a different vibe, especially when you study them and then watch them from a different view, isn't it? I think, especially probably with yourself, Craig, as you're looking at it from like an English literature and stuff viewpoint in the past as well.
Yeah, because I find it interesting that people say that you should study this from a sort of act progression kind of view, because to me, some of the act progression seems odd. And I think paced in odd ways. I mean, I'll get into it later, but I'll actually explain what I mean. But like, I think the ending especially seems to be. It feels like it's been like chopped up from other films and just put together, because there are things that I expected it to just cover as just an absolute, an absolute minimum just aren't met, and I'm like. Huh. Okay.
Yeah, I think possibly if you're looking at it from an act point of view, maybe people are looking at it from that idea of these kind of like crime thriller type films in which they tend to follow this certain narrative structure. Maybe this is an example of that, or an early one. And obviously, again, I think that Harrison Ford being a big part of this and his character leading you throughout, he's obviously a big selling point of it. So Aaron, what's your opinions on Harrison Ford? Are you a fan? Is it mainly for his like kind of franchise stuff? Obviously, I'm seeing a Force Awakens poster in the background there, so are you kind of more of a just like he's Indiana Jones and Han Solo and that's it, or is it you also acknowledge him for his other work, which he's probably there like please too.
I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest here. I've only really seen him in franchise stuff, and I keep meaning to delve into his other roles that are non-franchise, like The Fugitive, like Air Force One, and that sort of 80s 90s not Renaissance, he was still starting his career, I know what I mean. Like that period of where he was doing a lot of like serious films and was veering away from franchise a little bit. I need to delve into them, but I haven't. And again, because I don't really know much, I only know what's been talked about in terms of like those thrillers of the 90s and 80s that he did. I was expecting something with this film, and it like completely subverted what I was expecting it to, which I think kind of Sarah's already alluded to with like the act structure and stuff, but it was not what I was expecting. I was expecting something like The Fugitive, like kind of heavy on like tension and action, and this kind of didn't do that. And I didn't know. I'm still trying to figure out whether I like it or not. But it was a bit of an odd experience.
It's like, am I going to get like The Fugitive, like big thrilling crime stuff, or you're going to get Harrison Ford kissing an Amish woman in a field? It's like so. But to stay on Harrison Ford for a moment, and again, I guess this has been a theme throughout some of the episodes recently, especially ones that have involved Mary. Sorry, Mary, but you also mentioned this in the Endgame special episode in the last one, and I think she jokingly said the other day that I think you would have seen it, Sarah, that somebody was asking whether a certain actor was their type, and they said that maybe because he didn't have creepy hands, she wasn't into them. Who was she talking about? Was it actually Harrison Ford?
Was it Harrison Ford? I don't know. We've gone through weird middle-aged men fantasies.
Either way, what I was thinking of when watching this was, like, to me, Harrison Ford just doesn't seem to age. Like, that's why when I watch Star Wars, I don't watch that as like, oh, it's young Harrison Ford, or this is when he's a young man. I don't see, Luke Skywalker. I'm like, that's a young person. And then now I see Mark Hamill, I'm like, oh, he is aged. And obviously Harrison Ford, I can see is visibly aged. But considering the age he is, like, he just always has seemed to have been like a 40, 50-year-old man. And now he's starting to become like a 60-year-old man, when in actual fact he's older than that. But it's
okay, I'll give you that. Yeah.
So it's funny to me that, like, as seen in this film, or whether through that era that Aaron was talking about, was he ever like a sex symbol or something? I don't know. It's just kind of like weird in the sense of, like, I guess Indiana Jones maybe was the kind of most appealing.
You're joking,
people
aren't
again.
you? He's hot in all of these 80s films.
Oh, that's the perspective you're going
yeah.
for. Okay.
Is that what you're saying, David? Because
I'm saying I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm telling you yes.
Okay, there you go then.
I had this chat with my mum today. I said, oh yeah, I'm talking about Witness. She says, that was an amazing film. She said, I think that was the film where I realised he was hot. Bearing in mind, my mum's in her late 60s and she loves Blade Runner. She thought maybe it was Blade Runner.
This is why I've asked you. It's like, not because you might know, that your mum might have given you that answer.
I'm giving intergenerational perspectives here.
Yes,
but
yeah.
yes, I can confirm.
If there's one thing I
40
don't want to discuss, which is like people of our age talking about Harrison Ford, it's the words intergenerational.
My mum loves him. I love it.
But yeah, it's just weird for me to think of people like that, seeing him in that way. And maybe, like said, because as you watch those movies more and more, it is like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that he was sold as this type of actor as well. And then if you look at things like American Graffiti, maybe that's quite different. But yeah, I've just always seen him as like an older guy. And it's just like, but as we've summarized in the podcast recently, that is a lot of people's things. So
yeah.
So yeah, we've established that is a selling point here in Witness. Yeah, and I guess Harrison Ford kind of has avoided that trope, which, you know, Craig, I often talk about quite a bit with certain actors I don't like, of like they just embody that persona of the actor themselves within every movie role they're in. I don't know if you feel the same, but I don't know, Harrison Ford seems to get away with it somehow.
He does get away with it, especially, which is incredible considering that every film I've seen him in, he is just playing the same dude.
Yeah.
He is just the same dude. It just so happens that Indiana Jones is from a different time period and planet than Han Solo, who again, different era than this guy. But just the way even if like the things he's saying is significantly different, so he's not being much of a funny man in this one, he is trying to be more of the like on point, trying to be the good cop. He is just delivering things in the exact same way. It's not like other actors where like I can see them just embodying a different kind of persona. He's just the same guy. It's a well performed guy. I like the guy. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know, but it's just the same guy.
Yeah, I think that's the difference as well, is that, well, one, he's kind of like, say you take somebody like Christopher Waltz or someone like that, it's like you're very much going for a specific type of character, and like it's hard to avoid that accent, etc. Whereas he can be more easily adapted into different types of franchises. Yes, probably if he was in like an old school fantasy, wouldn't quite fit, but he can fit within the kind of sci-fi world. He can exist within like, you know, kind of maybe gangster films or something, but also within modern day stuff as well, which I don't think you could do with other type of actors, say like Mark Wahlberg, who's one that comes to mind of like, I find he just plays the same guy all the time, but I don't like Mark Wahlberg, whereas I find with Harrison Ford. So
I'll be interested to see Harrison Ford in more army roles. So specifically, going back and watching something like Air Force One, I need to do, but also the fact that he is going to be the replacement General Ross in like MCU projects coming up.
And be a president. So is he President Ford? But yeah, that's, so we're going to have the political and the military there. So that should be interesting. But yeah, we've talked and touched on our kind of very light experiences with this film. As we said, Sarah's the only person who had seen it before. And we kind of all established that not many of us had heard about it even, so there wasn't that idea of like, oh, you know, this is a famous film, but I just never got the chance to watch it. This is one that's gone under the radar, which, you know, Chris said when he recommended it. So we'll go to sort of our first initial reactions and thoughts, and as Craig has teased it quite a bit, we'll go to him first.
So I want to say this straight off. I agree with Aaron. Like I did not get the film that was sort of set up to me and sort of promised to me at the beginning, which is to say, I was very much expecting this to be city based. I was expecting this to be, you know, very much focusing on the pursuit of trying to find who the killer is. But I thought it was going to be navigating the way in which, you know, trying to deal with this young boy who obviously isn't used to a lot of the city customs, and just trying to get him to get the evidence to make sure that they got like McPhee prosecuted, etc. That was obviously blown within the first like 20 minutes when he then just emerges in a car park and starts firing at him. So I'm like, oh, okay, so we're not doing that. And he's like, there's not going to be a trial. Oh, so what is this film? Oh, it's Living Among the Amish. And you know what? As far as Living Among the Amish films go, I actually quite like this film. I'm genuinely surprised because, look, one thing that sort of bothers me is that I don't know why I have such a respect for the Amish. I've never met them. I've never done any significant reading or anything about them. But I've always felt that they've been portrayed in media as ridiculously backwards people. So obviously just the idea that the moment they see a piece of technology, they sort of recoil in horror and just call it demon witchcraft or whatever, and just the ways in which they interact with that. But no, I thought this was actually a really nice, nuanced take on how the Amish life is lived. The fact that they are a very compassionate people. So the fact that they take their religious ideologies and just put it into practice. So they're willing to help out in these situations. They're willing to do the right thing. Hell, they're even saying he needs to go to a hospital. It's not like, oh, we can do with it. None of that confangled technology. No, they're literally saying, yeah, he needs to go to a hospital. They're willing to help him try and fix his car. They're even using mass-produced umbrellas at one point, which I saw and I was like, this is something I would not have expected from the typical view of the art. And so I think just watching all of that play out, and just him acting with these people was quite nice. The thing that sort of kills it for me is then when it just goes back to being the crime film. The fact that, these people then, he then gets word that his friend cop has been killed. He then basically gets into the confrontation. He then basically draws them out into the Amish community. And every single way in which the three corrupt cops are bested, I think is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And obviously as well, the romance, I was like, this is stupid, and just falls into the worst sort of tropes of this idea. I'm fed up of seeing this, especially considering that for a film called Witness, the key witness seems to disappear quite a lot throughout the film. I got to a point, I was like, hang on, where's the kid? And then he just turns up with this weird Rube Goldbergian machine he's been given, which, cool toy. But again, I'm just like, oh, hello.
What is it in The Simpsons? I was thinking the joke in my head where they say about they're watching a movie, and at the end, and they're like, thank God that we all survived. And it's
yeah, isn't it yeah, I think it is literally just that. I think I might be trying to confuse it with the Rapture film that they're watching, and it's Left Behind. But I think
I was jokingly thinking of that in my head.
It's not when they're watching Titanic.
No, Titanic 2 is where it gets cut off halfway through.
Yeah. No, it's just when they just say the name of the film. But that's what made me laugh at the end, is if the Amish went up to that the last officer standing sort of moment, and he was just don't go anywhere because we will all witness what you do, or something like that.
I mean, I would actually find that a better way than he's beaten than he's just stood there, all the Amish come running up, and he's like, so you're gonna kill them in front of these people? And he's like, yeah, shit, you're right. And just decides not to. It's like my issue with Ready Player One, where the villain just opens it up, sees that he has the golden egg, and I'm just like, kill him. You. Why has this changed your mind? I don't understand the rationale of the villains who are just like, well, looks like I'm going to prison, instead of just you know what? I was willing to kill this one girl. I might as well kill a couple more of you, to be honest. Who actually gives a damn?
I definitely have some thoughts on that scene, and just the build up to it in terms of the chaos.
I mean, I have a bigger issue with the corn scene, to be honest.
Okay, right.
What a dumb way to die. I'm sorry. The corn was falling. I was just leave the room. Leave the room. Why is this thing going leave the room?
I was honestly thinking, is he allergic to corn? Is this? I was like, I can't tell what's happened. Is he
Get
just
out
choked?
of the room?
Has he just choked? I don't know.
And then he's just buried by corn at the end. But yeah, that's my views on Witness. I like this film, but I have issues with it.
Fair. Maybe that's some people's thoughts with Harrison Ford, if he is a douchebag. But
or issues with it.
Well, they have issues with him. Aaron, corn thoughts aside, which I'm sure we'll get to soon, what is your general thoughts? I guess you already said earlier that you're not quite sure what to think. You have sort of mixed emotions.
I'm a bit like Craig in the sense that I like elements of it, but then there's other things that are just really stupid, like that whole thing at the end just felt like the main bad guy was being told off.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
Harrison Ford, he was like, no,
Yeah.
stop it.
I thought that.
Stop it. No. I expect him to grab the shotgun and just hit him on the head. Like, no, sit
Bad.
down. But yeah, that, like, corn deaths aside, it there's a lot of things that I think I'm still just mentally trying to still get over the fact that, like, it similar to, again, to what Craig said, it's like it sets up that intense, like, crime, serious drama thriller for like the first 20 or so minutes, and then the rest of it is him hiding among the Amish, and I think there's like there's a certain point where it's like, okay, I guess I'm on board with this, and then it decides to do something else, and it's like, okay, now I've got to mentally adjust. Okay, now I'm on board with this. Oh, hang on a minute, it's trying to do something else and go back to what it was. Okay, and it's trying to, like, mentally adjust as you're watching the film, because there are points where, like, the pacing doesn't help because it slows down and then it tries to pick back up again. But I mean, I never thought I would see Harrison Ford build a barn. That was a first. That's something I didn't know I wanted to see in a film until I saw it and was like, okay, thank you, Witness, for giving me that. But I think it's also quite jarring for me because, like, out of the Peter Weir films I've seen, this is kind of very different to those as well. Because, like, it's nothing like... I mean, I've not seen Master and Commander, but it's nothing like Truman Show. It's nothing like Dead Poets Society. So I guess it's knowing what that director's like as well as what Harrison Ford can be like in his other films. This just threw me off. And again, I'm still trying to figure out whether I like it or not. There are elements that I do really like. I think the performances are all really good. The soundtrack's a bit questionable in places.
Oh, I despise the soundtrack of this film so much.
Which, again, carrying on
Honestly,
from History of Violence, very jarring kind of soundtracks.
No, but this is worse.
Yeah.
This is just worse.
Yes, yeah.
There are bits in the soundtrack where I was like, okay, the orchestra's going to kick in, and then it's like
Synth.
typical 80s synths, and I'm like, okay, fine. That's my definition of the whole film. It's like, okay, fine, I'll just go with it. And that's just me throughout, like, every 20 minutes of the film. It's like, okay, fine. Yeah. Just do your thing. I'll just go with the flow.
We're at this stage now, okay.
Do we think that's just what the Academy was like when they were just giving him the Oscar nomination for this? Like, yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I guess you're trying something new.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like other directors, which we've talked about in the past. You know, you do get some like this as well, but it's not like Quentin Tarantino or something. It's not like a clear, you can see how that's the same director. I think there's a lot of stylistic choices and kind of like interests that you can see through Peter Weir's work. And I guess that I would say that I think it is, to me, I find it is kind of similar to Dead Poets Society in a way, because I had that same experience as you guys had with Dead Poets Society, I think, where I expected more of a kind of Good Will Hunting type film, and then had something like a lot darker, and which uses like kind of like its pacing and its kind of like sense of place quite a lot. And there you have like a lot of moments which are just kind of like music and people walking around and the vibes of the campus, and then this kind of like very heavy, like, oh my god, this tragic thing has happened. So he seems to kind of like to dive into kind of like societies and like cultures and, you know, people's emotions and dealing with and reacting to different things. I think it is quite different obviously here, because you don't really maybe get enough time to have that. And, you know, spoiler, nobody really does get hurt on the sort of the side of good, or whatever you want to say. But I think it is one of those films that it's a good thing when you do think, yeah, actually, what is the deal with the Amish people? So I was kind of like researching them afterwards. So I think, like Craig said, I was impressed by how much kind of respect they give them, and kind of actually say like, no, we want like their kind of like views on violence and their way of life to be like a part of the spirit of this film, and like why it clashes. But again, that's what gives me mixed thoughts about the ending, etc. But yeah, Sarah, what do you think? How has it changed for you? Like what you said about like how you saw it last time, but do you remember having any specific thoughts the first time you saw it, and how that changes to now?
I think the first time I watched it, I was quite taken aback by the twist, shall we say, but the twist being in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, where's this film going to go now? I thought this was going to be the sort of third act bit. Yeah, I remember that obviously didn't have an impact. I remember that being part of it. Yeah, I noticed a little bit more about the pacing, like everyone said. I think it's like, it's set to be this sort of gritty Philadelphia thriller in the first 20 minutes. Changes pacing again. It's like, yeah, we're just going for vibes, Amish vibes. But I like that. I think it sets itself up as a certain kind of film when it's not really that kind of film. I just noticed a lot of actors in this that I didn't realise the first time round. Like Patti LuPone, didn't know who she was before, and then now I know that she's a big Broadway star. Lucas Haas as well, who plays the kids. I was like, I recognise that face, and then I was like, oh yeah, I've seen him in Inception and various other things. And the music, you touched on music as well. That was bloody jarring. That was so in your face. It's sort of how I remember feeling about Halloween. You know, that sort of motif that's just played constantly and kind of I find it quite distracting. I felt very similar with this, the kind of sense, but I did like the little motif in this. It's a little bit repetitive at times, but yeah, the sort of the various elements I noticed more on this time. The first time I just enjoyed it for the narrative, but now I was a bit more critical in terms of the screenwriting, music, actors, everything really.
Yeah, I think for me, nothing stood out to me as like, oh, this is actively not very good, or I'm not enjoying like this specific element. I think that there was enough creativity and kind of like care taken that I was invested for the most of it, and thought, you know, most of the performances were pretty compelling. I liked, like we've already established, the angle of sort of like exploring the sort of Amish community a bit more, but still having that kind of like crime thriller stuff a bit more. And I guess my expectations as the story went along is they're like, okay, this will be interesting now in terms of like them trying to find him, or how will this kind of like case unravel as it goes on in the real world, or them try to cover it up. But when you sort of established how much he was there, you're like, oh, okay, now this is just kind of like Harrison Ford in the Amish community. Because I guess the difference I had in terms of expectations was, I remember, you know, looking this up on IMDb, etc. And if you look at just the normal poster, it's just Harrison Ford in his kind of detective gear. But I did see a picture of him with that Amish hat and everything. So my expectations was like, is this going to be really goofy and silly, and that he's going to have to go undercover or something in the Amish community? Or, you know, is it what we actually got? Which, you know, so that was a better scenario than him like going undercover or something like that. But so I guess I kind of had an expectation that there would be like a lot of involvement within that community. So I knew that we would sort of go out to the city as it were, as we've mentioned. But I'm still surprised as to how much it kind of deviates from that in terms of like the tone and the genre. That they, you know, like a history of violence, you know, in that film, it still is existing with a kind of rural world, but is bringing, you know, the crime to their doorstep constantly, and is kind of constantly talking about that and showing these like dark tendencies with the characters. It's almost the opposite of that in some ways, in which like the Amish are literally there like, this is why, you know, we do not take life, and, you know, like if you were to take a life, you know, how are you different from that man? So I enjoyed a lot of things like that, when it's kind of like trying to see the world from their viewpoint. And that kind of ties in with my disappointment with the finale as well. I can't say I'm like overly gutted about it, because in some ways I was kind of like, oh, it's just turned into this typical film. So I think that it's still kind of like a decent enough template that it's fine, but it's just like so many other films in the past in which I'm like, oh, it's just unfortunate that you couldn't figure out like a more inventive or cooler way for it to end, whether that's through like studio meddling or rewrites, or just kind of not knowing how to end something. Because often people will kind of have these great big ideas and they explore them in the middle act, and then they're like, how do we wrap this up, you know? And I think that a lot of like big kind of like franchise fare, etc., can have that, you know. One of the examples that popped into my head was Skyfall, the James Bond film. That to me kind of suffers from the same thing of like, oh, and let's look at this like interesting thing of Judi Dench's M character, like having this history with this villain, and like this villain is kind of testing Bond, and, you know, what does Bond want to be Bond anymore, and everything. And then at the end it's just like, right, and now he just attacks like Bond's mansion, and then it's just like guns, and, you know, like are they going to survive? This to me felt similar to that, in which it's just like, it just leads to an all-out brawl fight, which was also similar in History of Violence. So I kind of, the corn thing did make me laugh in the sense of like, it was almost like he was using what he had learned to his advantage. And I was
and
like,
then all he does is just take the guy's gun and then just uses it to shoot.
So I was like,
one.
it would be incredibly goofy and silly if he was like, utilized his skills in the Amish to somehow like eliminate all of them through Amish maneuvers. Yeah, exactly. But I was like, but I also would have, because they had that character say to the child about like, this is why we don't take life. I was like, I would appreciate if he didn't use a gun. I think that would add a lot to it. So I'm not saying that again, he becomes some sort of like Amish Terminator or anything like that, but it's, I think they could have built up the themes a bit more. I think the ending, like we said, is, again, it kind of made me laugh, like the ringing the bell thing. All I was imagining is having the Endgame music playing over the top and just Amish people coming in, like the Endgame scene. And I just imagine all
over America.
Yeah, and then Harrison Ford just going, Amish, assemble.
Assemble a bomb.
Yes.
Now, the bigger disappointment for me is that it also just seems that by the end of the film, he didn't actually get a significant moment, apart from one line which isn't spoken by him, to actually just sum up like his entire time there, pretty much. I find it baffling that he basically from the point that he just makes out awkwardly in that field with, is her name Rachel or is it a different? I'm pretty sure it's Rachel. He never speaks to her again. Yeah. Pretty much, like no goodbye scene. Like no, I'll see you again.
They did it through their eyes, Craig.
I don't need to say it.
Yes, yeah.
Really awkwardly. And then just like sort of no wrap up. The only thing we get is Eli saying to him, watch out there for all those English, which is meant to be the affirmation of you're now one of us.
Yeah.
But then he still gets in his car and leaves. I'm just like, well, what is your relationship with this group now? Are you just done with them completely? Are you...
I kind of like the idea that, he would have changed as a person and his view maybe on violence would have softened, especially because the resolution was that he didn't kill that last guy. If you're looking at kind of like balance,
just
like
before,
like
just ignore the other two bodies.
Yeah, but again, it's like the other guy, the first guy, you could kind of say was like that was his own fault for not getting out of the corn silo.
It was his fault. Like, I'm sorry.
So
if I see loads of corn falling, my instinct is, oh, I better move, not be like, no.
But what I'm saying is that Harrison Ford wasn't directly, responsible for that kill. The only thing you say with the second one is like, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like retribution for what he did to the guy at the beginning. So then the third guy is like, he doesn't deserve it because he hasn't taken a life. Which
but the thing is, we don't know that because obviously he finds out that his partner's been killed.
Yes,
but we have no idea under what circumstances. For all we know, that third guy could have been directly responsible and therefore deserved it.
Yeah, and that's
but he just arbitrarily decided, no, this is the one I'm going to like virtue signal and just leave alive, and somehow convince him that like he's seen the error of his ways, as if this was going to be like some preschool special of you're right, I'm sorry, I'll go to prison now. Because like as a police officer, that you're willing to instantly go to prison for your actions. It's not like you're going to be killed or anything there.
Well, that's where it could have been a bit muddy, I think, because I was like, okay, I hope this isn't a kind of like, moment in which they chuck away everything they've kind of built up in terms of like their beliefs of the Amish and their views on violence, because quite a lot of films do that sometimes, and I hate it when you do this thing of like, this is why we will not fight, or this is why we will not do this, or this is why we believe this is the thing. Kind of like what you felt a bit at the end of Demolition Man in the sense of like, yeah, but this is why it is good, So like if he had protected them all and like killed all those people and they were like, thank you, I would be like, that would like seriously undermine, the point that film was trying to make. So thankfully they have that moment with the Amish in which, again, it's just kind of through their judgment and through their kind of witnessing of that moment that he kind of lays down his arms.
But even then, I still think there's a way in which you're able to defend yourself without being violent, right? I think without doing this, the stupid little speech, I think he can just show like, the strength of numbers, make him believe there's like, and then just the Amish should just like, see, we don't need violence when you have community.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I think it could have been done.
No, not exactly. That's not the argument you were making.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that if you're talking about that ending, I agree. I think it could have been done better. But more my argument is that I think that he still took away with him some of the beliefs of them by the fact
Yeah,
that the
but-
end act he did wasn't a violent act.
Again, I agree. It's just in execution, it doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah, no, that
I understand from a perspective, like him doing that, the response should have been cool.
yeah. But him walking away at the end, so I feel that he would have taken away, he would have maybe changed as a person. But that's where, again, I was disappointed the film wrapped up so quickly. I was kind of like, I kind of want to know what happened to this whole corruption in the police force. Like, is it gone? Like, we just see Harrison Ford just talking to two guys. I'm like, are they FBI? Do they know, like, how deep this goes? Because it's not kind of like he's just a bad cop who is just covering up like one crime he did. You know, this is like a really serious operation in which they are intimidating witnesses. Like there's some, you know, a lot of cover-ups going on, and, you know, that people are like, oh, they've unfortunately disappeared and all this kind of stuff. And the fact he was so high-ranking, especially, you know, that's why I'm like, I hope there's a lot more repercussions from this. And again, that Harrison Ford's character is brought to justice a lot more, you know, like, were they just like, oh, thanks for that, you know, like, it's like, how did it get uncovered? You know, there's a lot more questions, and I feel that they could have like had an extra 10 minutes just to wrap up a lot of what happened and kind of tie up a lot of those stories and loose ends, rather than just being like, thanks for protecting us, no problem, see you later, get in the car, goodbye. Especially the fact that he like drives away, stops with that guy walking past, and kind of just hangs there for a while. I was like, is this the like driving to the sunset or not? I'm confused.
He just gets in the car and goes with him. He thinks,
yeah,
screw this. I think that's what my problem is, like what the first act of the film does. It kind of, when it's in the city, it sort of sets up this whole kind of gritty vibe, police corruption, like racial profiling when they go into that club. Like, I was really interested in that, and I wish there was a bit more exploration into that, and that could have been brought into it more, like you say, David. But the film, you know, the majority of it is Amish way of life, but I think there could have been a deeper message if it was maybe made more recently. They could have had a bit more commentary, I think, on the police system.
Yeah, that's that's what made me want to explore even more, probably, like you said, is because like, oh, this is still very relevant, you know, in terms of like police corruption, etc. So that was very telling. And I think that it was interesting in terms of the themes that the director wanted to explore a lot through a lot of the visualization. So even though those weird music moments, you know, I think moments like at the beginning when like the child is looking at that statue and then he kind of like sees the police officer in that kind of like trophy case. I think that a lot of that is very telling of like this kind of child like seeing like, you know, how are people like raised up to be like on pedestals, and like how does like society kind of like operate in terms of, right, the Amish are just kind of like, this is what's right and wrong and this is what we believe in. And then you go into this world which is kind of like almost, you know, kind of dystopian in a way for him, in terms of like, we have these idols as big statues, and then like he sees this guy which is meant to be one of those, like this kind of like celebrated person, but actually he's the bad person, he's the corrupt man kind of thing. So, which
is why it's also unforgivable of the film to just deviate away from this kid so much, right? Yeah. There's a lot of trauma you could, because I think this is one thing that I read a review that somebody said it's unrealistic for a kid to be this untraumatized.
I thought he was going to be silent for the majority of the film, and it'd be like trying to break him or something. Yeah.
It is surprising that it's just they're back in the Amish community, and it's like, oh, okay. Also, question, because obviously Rachel does have a husband. Who is it? I'm really confused as to who it is, because
I was like,
one of two fake people, both of which I find odd.
I thought like he had passed away or something, because she was like, these are my husbands.
Died.
This is what I expected, but at times it made it seem like Eli was like the husband figure, which was I really hope that's her dad.
I thought it was just like, oh right, no. I just thought that blonde guy had the like kind of was like
the blonde. I'm not talking about the blonde guy. I'm talking about
I know the old man. That's what I'm saying. But
that was the granddad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the kid's granddad, I would hope, not her granddad.
But that's what I mean, is that I thought that she was single and available because that blonde guy was like, ooh, I wouldn't mind, being her husband.
Yeah, that's I just don't think the film makes it abundantly clear.
No, it's just the fact that she says like, these were my husband's clothes, he doesn't need them now or something like that. So I was just like,
that's the whole point at the beginning though, isn't it? That's why she's going to Philadelphia and they're wearing black.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
okay,
right, okay.
I thought it was quite obvious.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of gathered that that was the. I don't really think I'm adding anything to this, but yeah.
I remember her saying
Yeah.
she needed to see his sister. So again, maybe I'm like, it's too recent after me seeing the holdovers in which she's like, oh right, her sister's having a baby and she's going to to help her prepare the baby's room.
I thought Rachel would have like made a bit more of an effort in like, because I think it's like my preconceived like what I was expecting to happen. The whole bit where they keep Rachel and Samuel for like further questioning and stuff. I thought they would have really hammered in the thing of like she really wants to like go and see her sister. I thought that would have been like a moment of conflict, and like they would have really played up that, but they just stay at John Book's sister's house.
Because when they first arrived at the farm, I thought, oh, is that the sisters? So I thought there might be a bit of interest in development there, that they've actually gone to where she did want to go, but then it's like kind of killing two birds with one stone, in which like, oh, I can hide you at the same time.
It's another example of the film kind of going, right, we're going to try this, but not fully commit to it, but we're going to also try this and then not fully commit to that either.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with what Craig said, is that like I could have sworn they were going to like delve more into like the traumatized kid aspect as well. But again, that's another thing that's like outside of the first 20 minutes where it's set in the city, it's very quickly dropped. You get that moment where he's playing with his gun.
I was thinking that, yeah.
But again, they don't really do anything with it. Rachel hides the gun, and then you're on to the next scene, and they're building barns and milking cows and doing stuff.
Which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good barn raising. It was quite fascinating watching it all be done.
Yes, yeah.
But it's also not like, if I went to see this in the cinema, I'd be like, this is really cool, but not what I paid for.
Yeah, a cinema experience of that would have been very different in the 80s, I imagine.
And it's just,
sure.
That's what's funny, I think, about the ending, as you were saying, Aaron, in which it, like Harrison Ford was like, no, like, you've been bad. And I kind of find it weird that he did kind of openly say, like, you're going to do it, and like held the kid there. Like, everyone should be like, if you're going to make this point, please just don't hold the kid like right there and say you're going to do it. Because it's like, I'm not sure if you know this guy that well enough.
Yeah, this is where you actually now traumatize the kid.
Yeah, exactly. So that seemed like, you know, Harrison Ford was having a bit of a breakdown on set rather than like actually like making a point. But what I found funniest was before that, when he like finds him in the barn. And again, I was like, this doesn't seem like an actual, like a kick-ass kind of like, you know, I'm going to shoot her, blah, blah, blah. It just really came across as a guy who's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And Harrison Ford's just like, neither do I. They're like, I'm going to shoot her. You're doing this. I don't know what you know, it's just so chaotic.
I honestly thought they were going to keep going with that thing of like, you put your gun down.
Yeah.
No, you put your gun down. No, you put your... I thought they were going to keep that going for like another like 10 minutes.
But it's just funny that the villain's not even like intimidated about it. He's just like, I thought he was going to say like, you put it down. He's like, do you know what you're doing? He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to hold this gun to this woman's head.
I just killed a man with corn. What do you think I'm doing?
yeah. Please don't get the corn on me. Maybe he's just scared about the corn. I don't know. What made me laugh was when they went, and again, it was interesting because they were still showing the like, and this is when we watch these American films, and I'm like, America is a crazy, crazy country, because again, I looked at the history of the Amish people, and I'm like, they all, you know, went from Europe and then all were like, yeah, we won't live there anymore. We'll just all reside in America. So it's like years and years later, everyone was just like, is that a bit of a crazy place to settle down now? Too late, you know? So it's just such a wild country in which you can have people who literally live like olden times in the exact same country, which also has like skyscrapers in every city going. But the fact,
and have become a tourist attraction as well.
So that's what I mean. So the fact that they were kind of like showing their point of view of seeing the outside world as well as seeing the outside world's view of them. And even the police officers, like kind of, you know, bluntness to the, whatever he was, the lead villain, where he's just like, well, there are several Amish communities. There's thousands of them. You know, how am I going to narrow it down? How am I going to go ask about like this one guy? You know, they all look the same, blah, 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 blah. But it made me laugh when they went to when they were showing the tour groups going around, and what I described as Robert De Niro giving a tour when this guy came off and he was like, we're here with the Amish. I was just like, what are you doing, man? I was just like, everyone in this film has called them the Amish. And I was like, I know they're called the Amish. And this guy gets off a bus and he's like, the Amish store here. He's just like, it's the Amish. And it's just like, he sounded like Robert De Niro, which I don't sound like Robert De Niro when I'm doing that. But him calling them the Amish, just, even I was offended by it.
Especially considering Amish is a name.
Yeah, that's true. And another standout for me was, of course, Harrison Ford's amazing line, which is, lady, you take my picture with that thing and I'm going to rip your brassiere off and strangle you with it. You got that? I was just like, this film might have not given us, like kick-ass Harrison Ford in the way we expected, but it did have that line.
That was great.
Yeah. I thought I would have laughed if that line was improvised and Peter Weir was just like, can you stick to the script, please, Harrison?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like one of those memes you see in which...
It's like Harrison, you were meant to be like, no, can you respect these people's traditions and not photograph us? Instead, you threaten this woman. This would be fine as like a one joke hit. You've done that 20 times.
Yeah, there's like fake showbiz stories where they're like, everyone thinks that this scene was improvised, but it was actually like they kept the camera rolling where they're like making a joke. It's like, it'd be one of those in which like this was an actual real interaction between Harrison Ford and somebody trying to take a photo on set.
I just want to talk about the fight scene where like it's those obnoxious tourists with the ice cream.
Oh.
And he just punches the one guy in the face once, and he's just bleeding to the point of it just looks like every blood vessel in his body had broken at once.
Well, the noses are that's usually why it's very reactive to
yeah,
blood.
I don't even think he got punched in the nose.
I think he kneed him though, didn't he? Like he punched him and then he kind of held him down. I think he kneed him in the face. So.
Yeah, I just thought it was more in the forehead, and it just seems to have
Yeah, that was another moment in which History of Violence. I was like, yes, another bully, justified violence. Which again, obviously I know the Amish people wouldn't have agreed with it, but
no, he had the perfect response. He's like, no, this is my way.
Yeah.
Look, I know that the film shouldn't be like the Amish should be violent or whatever, but it's also got to be, look, if this guy is going to be violent in your defense, you've got to at least let him do what he's doing. He's acknowledged that he's not thinking this should be your way.
But
so I was like, yeah, fine.
To go with what Aaron was saying earlier, again, of when it seems to be going down certain routes. And this film, I think, deliberately often does. Sometimes I have to rewind and be like, wait, did I miss something? Because it just cuts so, drastically sometimes. I think where they are kissing in the field and then it suddenly goes to the cops arriving. Or
I really want to discuss that scene in a minute though.
When the kid sees the violent act and then you immediately cut to the cops already in the station. I was like, oh, right, okay. I thought there was going to be this big lead up of how would this crime be uncovered? Is this kid going to say anything? But to me, it was odd that they kind of made such a big deal of he's not one of us and he's broken the rules and he needs to go. And then she's like, why does he need to go? I thought there was going to be a bigger conflict of whether she agreed with it, whether she should go with him. Did she agree with his world? Could he change to be a part of their world more? But then right before that decision has to be made, then the villains turn up and it just is lost. It's just strange to me that when he's he will be gone by morning, and then it's well, it happens just before morning, so they're lucky that he didn't go anywhere. You thought there would have at least been somebody would have looked at that and gone, oh, you're missing a key bit of conflict here in which he could have been halfway up the road and it would be something like the bell would have alerted him to go back or something like that. I just found it weird that it kind of led to that and then just didn't do anything with it. There's almost no consequence to what happened really with that entire fight, apart from just pointing out he is not one of us.
Yeah, it feels. I think this is a mixture of things where when it's trying to do all these different things, but ping pongs between each one. Every single thing feels abrupt in that sense, and it kind of goes off of what someone said a minute ago, whereby it's 1 minute they're kissing in the field, and then the next the police arrive, and then I think also from when I keep forgetting the character's name, John Burke. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's like Craig Plate or Liam Table or something.
Again, why was the caption do things by the book never come up?
It reminds me of John Booth as well, which is a
but
an odd association for you to
it's very much because when Harrison Ford's character punches the bully, you then get that really awkward bit with the old man like telling the police about it,
yeah.
and then you just have to kind of presume between like the 5 or 4 minutes between like the old man talking to the policeman, them kissing in the field, and then the police arriving. You just kind of have to presume that like, oh, that led to that. Whereas like most other films would kind of probably delve, I think someone mentioned it earlier, like delve into like how the other cops, the corrupt ones, kind of put 2 and 2 together and tracked him down. Whereas it's just a case of old man tells policeman tells them, oh, here we go, they've put 2 and 2 together. And it's very, there's a lot of things, especially the middle of the film kind of isn't affected by it, but it's mainly kind of the start and the final act of the film where it's very like, this thing happens, then that thing happens, and it just all happens quite abruptly. Like, his partner dying was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, he's dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see that guy given an element of ceremony.
Well, you know, I think it is a deliberate choice by the director in some respects, and I do kind of like that sometimes, that you get these moments of like, you know, when something tragic or, you know, you're not kind of treating the audience too dumb, you know, that you can sort of connect those dots within your head. But I think it's, sometimes it's just when it kind of doesn't make story sense, in which it would make sense to visually see something connected or to kind of like elaborate more of the plot, like you said, especially the police stuff. And especially because, you know, they're talking so much at that stage about like how the Amish are different. And what I thought was interesting again is like how much it highlighted, you know, when he says, you know, that is why we do not fight in wars. And then that guy specifically says, you know, they don't fight for this country, like, you know, they're scared, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't even know or think about that before. So the fact that that highlights it in this film, which could be a film in itself, you know, it then seemed interesting to have that old man go like, this is a tourist area, you're disgracing the name. And I was like, I love how this guy is just willing to throw the Amish under a bus, in which like, yeah, I'm happy with them being like abused and like, you know, thrown stuff at and ice cream thrown in their face, as long as it preserves the sanctity of the tourist attraction, you know. And then like an Amish guy comes along and punches somebody, he's like, oh my God, you know. It's just like, I thought there was almost like an interesting thing to say there. Like, again, it's like, would the elders have to say like, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go, and he'd be like, what the hell, like they're literally like, you know, bullying you and like making fun of you. There's been other films which have been like that, in which somebody struggles to acclimatize the community.
That's the only thing I don't think is that accurate. I think there is a difference between, there's a difference between pacifism and just being an absolute pushover, and I think they are portraying them as just, because we don't believe in violence, it means we won't defend ourselves. I'm like, surely you would just say something at that point. You just be like, mate, you are, obviously without using this language, but it's just, you are being a dick and you need to move on with your life.
But I think I think it's kind of believable that they would be to that degree, but as long as they pushed it home again through quite a creative finale of being like, we will let their own actions like reflect back on them, whatever they do, or something like that. But but again, it'd have to be a very specific kind of like, this is what this Amish community here believes in, like not all Amish
I just don't think it's believable they wouldn't say anything. That's my issue with it.
Anything else of note then for kind of, as we've mentioned, the
makeout scene?
Yes, which also includes like music, etc. So Craig, what's your thoughts on
what the hell was going on? Like, I understand being passionate in the field, but like, that was the most awkward first kiss I've ever seen. Just the fact that there's like no communicate, and they're just literally like, they're straight in there like.
This is going to sound so weird. Yeah, this is going to sound weird on the podcast.
And also just the extent to which some of the areas of the face they decided to like very quickly move on from. Just the fact that there was like instantly a lot of like neck kissing, jaw kissing.
And that typical thing of, again, like the 80s and 90s, in which you're like, oh, he's watching it in the shower, but oh, okay, breasts, whoa, okay, you know. Again, it's just like very like,
I just that entire scene, I was just like, why?
And it confused me where it showed him sitting down, and then the next day, like he said, like the line confused me where he was just like,
so if we slept together last night, one of us, I'd have to go, or something.
And I was like, does that mean you did sleep together, or are you just like talking as if that did happen. I was confused. He was like,
And then he ends
either
up having to leave the next day anyway.
yeah, and he was just like, either you would have to go or I would have to stay. And I was just like, in what context? I don't understand.
I mean, I got it as a hypothetical because I don't look. I think that kissing scene in the field is the sort of, if you had already slept together, and you're kissing each other like that, I'm just like, you guys need to realize you're not compatible.
Yeah,
because this is a bad kind of sloppy.
But I think it's just more that it's again just confusing as to what story you're trying to tell here. Is it like
that's not our issue right now. Like,
But
I think that's an issue you're trying to create.
yeah, no, I'm just saying the bit where he's talking about like, you know, either you would have to go or I'd have to stay is like, is he having that conflict of like, do I become one of the people?
I think we've already established, David, that was a conflict that should have been in the film and nobody gave a damn about by the end. To the point they don't even have their resolution to decide that's what they're going to say. They literally make out in the field, like, and then it's just like, well, looks like I'm never speaking to you ever again.
Did you have feelings for her? Who knows?
If anything, him just leaving the way he did was just like, yeah, I don't want to go through that again. I'm off. Bye. Yeah.
It's like, at least say have some big thing about like you are of two different worlds. But yeah, Sarah, what did you think of the awkward makeout scene?
I mean, the makeout scene itself, exactly what Craig says, the smushing together of mouths. You could feel the teeth on teeth as well. It wasn't pretty, but everything leading up to it, I liked the sexual tension. I won't lie. I thought it was quite hot and steamy. I feel like they've done religious kind of two different worlds before in cinema. Is the topless scene necessary of her in the shower? Probably not. Yeah, but the lingering is a classic romantic thing that I think a lot of women specifically appreciate in cinema and books and stuff. But the kiss, it was anticlimactic, I have to say.
And I think because it kind of is set in the beginning that she's sort of attracted to him on several different elements, again, of like that otherworldly element, but also like as somebody who has protected her son and has, you know, been there and, you know, willing to sort of sacrifice himself. I think that there's a lot of dynamic there, which makes it believable.
This is just why I think it's also just lazy. I'm fed up of this sort of trope of just, I wish that there was more to it than just that.
It seems surprising because now you're so used to with modern movies not having to be like, oh, there has to be a romance, whereas like this seems of that era of like there needs to be a romance kind of like as a part of
definitely like you don't need to have that in there. He's very like fatherly towards the kid as well. There's definitely times where he learns from him and vice versa.
I just thought that was him being a good policeman.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you don't need to add the romantic element. You've just got this kind of absent father figure in Harrison Ford's character, and that's all you need to do, really.
Yeah,
which is what I wanted more of, and then the kid just like fucks off halfway through the film.
I mean, the only thing I'd probably add to like that one specific scene is that like the sexual tension aspect was a bit odd, but I liked where like they were hinting at stuff at the start, and then like you got the bit with them dancing in the barn to music, and that whole bit I liked because it hints at something, but then they know when to kind of pull back on it.
Yeah.
But then obviously they just throw everything at the wall towards the end, and I feel like because I think there is one simple way they could have like improved. I mean, there's a lot of ways they could have improved that kissing scene, but there's one way they could have improved it because there's obviously the tension with Daniel that they set up. There's the stuff with Harrison Ford's character and the kid Samuel, where like, you know, he's got like a nice little friendship going with him, and they could have just like rectified that one scene and put like a bit of a moral ambiguity on it just by cutting to one of them seeing it off in the distance.
Yeah,
like they cut to like, I don't know, Daniel like the other side of the field because they're out in the open snogging. Someone's bound to see it. So like whether it's Eli or Daniel or the kid or someone looking at it and acknowledging it, but then, you know, the fact that they've seen it and are not happy with it, but then they still help them in the end when the kid rings the bell and they all come. I still think that could have added like a nice little, yes, I know you've done something wrong for our community, but I'm still going to kind of help you. I'm butchering this in terms of my words, but like, I feel
kind of
like
Amish. I'm a bit scared by mentioning this film as to make it become this, but it'd be like Amish atonement.
Yeah. I mean, I think just one simple. I mean, it's a weird scene to talk about, but like that one scene, I feel like could have been just fixed with a simple like cut to one of the characters we've established.
Yeah.
Not quite getting on with John Book.
Just that blonde guy, just with a tear rolling down his face or something. You know, he clearly was very dedicated.
Just him or the old man. Just looking and just like disapproving, or just something to add to that kind of gives it a bit more of a thematic weight, rather than it just being, oh, they're finally going to kiss and rip each other's lips off. Or
it's like they had him punching the guy in town and had him like kiss her. It's just like where they could have just chosen one of those as a reason for him to leave or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Clearly, it just given what they wanted to set up, it needed to be the romance angle.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say very quickly, the scene in the bar when they were dancing also wound me up, because I was like, if the entire point of what you're trying to do is get your car battery back on, you are just destroying it.
I thought it was funny because, again, it was weird to see Harrison Ford like happy because he was like, this song, and I was just like, I'm not sure I buy into you like loving this song so much, and like him singing.
He chose that song.
Oh,
I think him and Peter Weir, like, they sat down and Peter Weir was like, oh yeah, you can choose whatever song you want, and he went with that Sam Cooke song.
I'm not saying Harrison Ford wouldn't be human and like music, but it's just like, it was such
I told you, make it a musical.
It'd be such a sudden, it was just such a sudden change of character because he was so serious up until that point, so it just seemed forced of like, this is the moment you need to like this chemistry between these characters, even though I thought it was very good chemistry and it was a kind of a believable moment. And again, that was showing the otherworldly attraction of him, that she was kind of having this music she would never hear. But again, I found it funny with the grandfather of like, was he like dancing? Like, is he actually like, you cannot dance at all? Or was he just like having issue with just them as a thing, which obviously was a part of it. But it was just how many things are you pissed off in this situation with? Is it just you dancing with him? Or is it just actually like you're involved in like modern society?
I think it is most likely going to be the use of technology thing. Aaron?
I think he actually says during that scene it's something to do with they don't agree with music.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like trying to make out what he was saying, and I was just like, is this like an Amish kind of like the music is an issue? Because again, you don't really hear them listening to their own music or anything. They just sing.
All right, take those cassettes, rewind them, and play them again, because it's time for VHS Corner. So in this episode, we've got Sarah looking at the behind the scenes for us. So is there anything that you have that might add a revelation to what we've already discussed? Or if not, just open a brand new avenue for us to look at? What have you got for us?
Got a few little facts for you. First off, with sort of reference to the year. So both Back to the Future, which also came out in 1985, and this film were honoured by the Writers Guild of America in 2006 as one of the 101 greatest screenplays of all time, number 56 and number 80. Despite being ranked higher on the list, Back to the Future still lost Best Original Screenplay to Witness at both the Writers Guild of America Awards and the Academy Awards in 1986, which I think's pretty crazy to think of. Witness itself was filmed on site at an Amish settlement in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So you'd be forgiven for assuming that amongst all this authenticity, you're actually seeing real Amish people in the background. It's in fact Mennonites, which are very similar but notably distinct Orthodox Christian community. The important difference between the two groups is that the Amish shun technology in this entirety, where Mennonites make exceptions. So there's still that kind of religious aspect. So it looks quite genuine, I think, on screen, having the background actors. I think I alluded to a little bit earlier, but Harrison Ford was a carpenter for a while before his career freshly took off. He did sort of realign his career when his acting wasn't going so well early on, and he delved into carpentry, and then obviously he did films like this, and it's really took off. In preparation for her role, Kelly McGillis lived with an actual Amish widow and her 7 children for a while before filming began, to get the speech cadence down and to observe the daily life of Amish widowed mother. So the final scene between John and Rachel was originally written with 10 pages of dialogue. However, Harrison Ford became ill and it had to be thrown out, which, you know, make of that what you will, whether he was actually ill. So yeah, so a lot of facts there about people learning about the Amish culture and including some of those sort of other religious communities in the film, and the sort of acting award ceremonies. So what do we think of some of those?
It just makes me laugh, to think of what we were saying earlier, right at the beginning of the episode, is that Harrison Ford impression to be like, go through 10 pages of script at the end, be like, I'm not saying all of that. He's like, maybe he's just like, I'm done with this film now. Like, I can't be bothered.
Right.
I'm
so
ill.
I obviously understand 10 pages is a bit excessive for like the end.
Maybe it was
but at
like,
the same time, to get rid of all of it, like, what? Did he just have like laryngitis or something?
maybe it was just 10
He
pages.
just did his voice in screaming at a guy in a bar, being like, don't shoot her.
He ingested some corn that day and he was just done.
I think he just didn't want to do it, to be honest. He's like, nah.
Yeah.
I just find it funny that, like, you had 10 pages of dialogue, he's ill. I know the one thing to do when I'm ill is kiss someone. No.
Like,
Kelly was fine.
Like, what was the resolution?
Maybe that's how he got ill.
It's like, I'm not so much interested in the 10 pages. It's like, but what was the resolution from that? Like, was it the same thing? Is it just...
Oh, clearly it's going to be he would have left still.
Yeah, so...
Because, like, I don't think they would have upended the entire ending of the film completely for, like, he's just like, I'm leaving. It's like, no, you've got it. Harrison! Yeah. Harrison!
Yeah. Yeah, like that shot of him at the end is actually just B-roll. It's like, you know, they had to just tack that on. But him talking to the police officers is just like two crew members. But I'm not surprised, because again, that it's often in VHS Corner that we're like, yeah, that scene seemed to stand out. Why did they decide to do that? And it's like, oh, okay, there was like a production reason for it. So yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it's Mennonites rather than Amish makes a lot of sense insofar as, especially because, like, I obviously pointed out the one thing, which was like you are using umbrellas, which is clearly something that is mass produced by like technology. How is this? Oh, it would be because you're the guys who haven't been like, yeah, this technology is complete. Yeah, fair enough.
Because I was thinking about that when I was watching this with the only other. Well, there probably is lots of films that explore those communities, etc. But most recently, Women Talking. I was watching this being like, were they Amish? Would they, like, you know, I was trying to figure out what community they were meant to be. Maybe they were Mennonites. But if you do want a film which looks at the moral complexities of whether you stay to your religion or you, like, condone violence and men and blah, 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 that's probably your best bet to get what this film didn't have is in that one. But yeah, I'm not surprised that a lot of the extras were genuine people of that Mennonite community, because I was thinking, oh, they've done a good job here of, like, you know, having the beards and the kind of like look. There was one guy when they were pulling up the barn and I was like, that looks like a fake beard to me. So it was only the one time I thought that, but it looked like a very clear kind of like fake, you know, like when you get those like
Abraham Lincoln
type, like it was like a grey one. It just didn't look like it kind of blended with the rest of his face, but who knows?
I'm going to laugh if that beard is real and that guy just ever since it's just like, why do people not like my beard?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't watch TV. It's fine. They'll never know.
Wait, we're on TV? That's ambitious.
What do you think about the Back to the Future part? Obviously, they both come out in the same year.
I think this is ludicrous. Like, how good were those 10 pages that got scrapped in the film that it's just winning all of these awards? Back to the Future makes sense to me, though, because I think it also that film also has to balance the sort of complexities of their version of time travel and how those things necessarily go into play with each other, and therefore dealing with the mixture of complex terminology but also in a very relatable sense. So I can imagine the screenplay for that being quite technical and something that is like fully thought out. I just don't see where that complexity exists with Witness, apart from just being like, you think it's going to be this, but it actually isn't. I think...
I mean, they could have carried that on and combined the two. Like, maybe they would have won all the awards if at the end the car was driving off and then suddenly went like off into the distance.
I feel like that would give the Amish a heart attack. It's like we're willing to allow certain types of technology. However, time travel seems like the one that, you know, for for a society that never ages, for them to allow time travel seems a bit weird.
Or just to have like,
Can you make that like the intro and let people think like, did they watch the right film?
yeah. I just love the idea. Maybe if you just switched up like Back to the Future 3, and it was just like, where we're going, there are no roads, and then it just cuts to Back to the Future 3,
technology.
and they're just like sand in a birdhouse, and like that's all Back to the Future 3 is. It's just, you know, Marty and Doc living the Amish life. But yeah, lots of interesting stuff there, which adds more context to the production and its kind of legacy. And speaking of legacy, now we go to the movie vault. So for anyone new to the podcast, we like to think of this as our time capsule of memorable movies for someone to dig up in the future. So should today's film Witness from 1985 gain the honor of a place in our movie vault and be remembered for all time? Obviously, this is your first time on the podcast, Aaron, so I won't come to you first. But Sarah, the person who previously had experience with this, has watched it through a new lens. What is your initial thoughts?
My memory of it was really positive. So first watch, I'd have a different answer. But with second watch, and I think talking through it all, I think my opinions have changed. I think looking at it through a kind of more critical eye, seeing the obvious pacing issues and tone issues, subverting you from what you think it is for right or wrong. I think there's better films in this era and this sort of initial category. So I'm going to say no.
Craig, what do you think?
No. Yeah, so as much as I do have respect for this film, I think it is just too inconsistent for me to warrant it going in, right? It seems weird to me that if I were to put it in, it would be on the portrayal of the Amish. And I feel like that there are better films out there. Hell, I even feel like Weird Al's like Amish Paradise is like a better, bigging up of that community. I think it's one of those things. I think for me, it's a sort of film that if you're going to subvert expectations, I think that's fine. I think you just need a grander plan in mind. And I think for what it's setting up and what it fundamentally then subverts to, I just don't think the payoff is strong enough for me. So that's why I just don't think I can give it enough credit as a film to warrant its legacy. And also, if we're talking about Harrison Ford films, well, Jesus Christ. Like, I think there are much better entries. As much as I've not seen it, Raiders of the Lost Ark would probably be a better portrayal of what he's like as sort of an action hero.
Very true. Aaron, what do you think then, based off the two arguments we've had so far?
I mean, I'm kind of just going to regurgitate everything that's already been said. I went in expecting one thing, it does another thing. Sometimes a film can do that and it works, but this film just has trouble committing to... It just doesn't know what it wants to commit to, whether that's in terms of its themes or its story. I like elements of it, like, again, the portrayal of the Amish, but again, this has already been said, but like there are other films that I would rather watch that do a better and more in-depth portrayal of that sort of culture, like Women Talking, which, funnily enough, was weirdly one of the first films that came to mind while I was watching it, even though they're nothing alike. But it was kind of ingrained in my head. Like, as soon as the whole Amish aspect came in, I was like, I'd rather be watching Women Talking, which is saying something. But yeah, I will have to say no, because it's inconsistent, and it's a shame, especially when you compare it to like other Peter Weir films, which are a bit more focused and a bit more streamlined with their execution and ideas, like The Truman Show or Dead Poets Society. This one just feels like it wants to try a load of things, doesn't know what to commit to, and the end product feels a bit all over the place as an end result.
Yeah, I think The Truman Show is like the best kind of like comparison for that. Sorry, I think Sarah's reaction to the cat made me laugh then. I think The Truman Show is the best kind of comparison to how this kind of high concept, maybe you want to say, idea is pulled off. I think that where there's more of a clear vision as to how you want that movie to start and end, and the sort of like journey and the message you want by the end. So I think that something that I thought of, similar to how you were saying about like Women Talking, was again a similar film in the sense of using the star power of its lead actor. I think is it The Grey, with like Liam Neeson and like the wolf, in which like I went into that being like, oh, it's just like one of those kind of like gimmicky, just like actor fights an animal film, or has to survive in the wild. And by the end of it, I was like, oh wow, that actually had a lot to say and was like, quite meaningful, had a lot of artistic integrity to it, which I came away from this having some of that. But like you said, I think it's just a bit too muddied by maybe not so much like the artistic choices. I think like the sudden cuts and the diversions are sometimes deliberate. So I think that they are creative choices. I think it's just that ultimately there wasn't as much of that. This is what I want to do, and this is how it will end. I think it just like it's the kind of 1, 2, 3 effect for me of like that third act just not being strong enough. Yeah. So yeah, I think like you've all said, I think that I really like this film. Is this something that I would rush back to see? Possibly not, and that's why it's underrated. I do agree with Chris. I think that it's worth checking out. It's a good highlight.
To be clear, Chris from a previous episode, not that hasn't just misremembered Aaron's name again.
No. I think that it's a good example of Harrison Ford's career, and more of this director's body of work, and potentially another reflection of the Amish community, but not the definitive one for any of those things. So I think on those grounds, unfortunately, doesn't make it into the movie vault. But will next time's film go in? We'll have to see. Obviously, recently we've had a mixture of additions and non-additions, with our 100th episode having 3 movies go in. But then, it's been a bit more of a mixed bag. So will this week's Endgame lead to a film that will give us high hopes, or not so much? Let's find out. Over to the Endgame.
We're in the Endgame now.
Okay, Endgame time. So I'm feeling a bit generous considering that we're in a brand new era of the show. So to start off this Endgame before anything has happened, I'm going to award both of you 1,000 points.
Whoa.
Yep.
Both win.
So you have that going forward. Right, let's now explain the game. So this is a game that I like to call A Price You Canna Ford. So this is all about Harrison Ford. Basically, what I've decided to do is I'm just going to see how well you can utilize your points and speculate about your knowledge of Harrison Ford films going forward. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you a Harrison Ford character, and it's very simple. The answer that I want from you is, what film is that character from? Now, in the case where, say, it's, a continuity set of films, I'm willing to accept any film from that continuity. So, for example, if I gave you Indiana Jones, I will accept Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You get the idea. Which also shows that Indiana Jones not going to come up in this quiz. So what will happen is, once I've given you the character, I'm going to allow you to gamble your points. So you can a minimum of 100, and then depending on what part of the quiz we're in will determine how the maximum amount that you can gamble. So for the first couple of questions, you can only gamble a maximum of 500. If your answer is correct, you get back the points that you already put in, as well as basically it's doubled for you. And if you're wrong, you just lose however much you bet. So say that I gave David 1,000 points, I gave him 1, he gambled 200, he's correct, he gets 400 onto his score. Make sense?
Yes.
Cool. And I'll make it clear how much the maximum bet is every time. But for everyone, you have to bet 100, even if you have no idea. So this is very much a calculation of how confident are you in knowing the right answers. Sarah's reaction is already showing it's going to be an interesting game.
You're going to get some weird answers, I tell you now.
I'd like to make clear for the audience at home, always gamble responsibly, and Welcome Movies does not condone hard gambling.
Not soft gambling.
Don't.
I think condone is. I think
Don't
condone
gamble
the-
your house. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if I'm going to give someone a house as like in an end game, like
well,
I'll take it.
treat this.
What I'm saying is that this could be the pathway that, like, you know, 1 minute Sarah's dealing in points, the next minute she's
You have made this so much darker than it needed to be, David.
Don't gamble money. That's what I'm saying.
I'm selling kidneys.
Where's Ray Winston when you need it? Going.
Yeah.
Can I just say, he signed off on the concept of this scoring system before coming in, and now he's just being like, it's just like, be clear, guys, this isn't a cool thing to be doing.
Hey, it's always on the advert, so I thought we need to make, you know, we don't want to get sued.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what the bigger gamble is. It's finding out what is going to be in next episode, because we'll be using this game to determine which film we will be talking about. All of us have a suggestion, so we're going to find out a little bit of a teaser about each of them, just to give everyone a taste of what could be chosen. So Sarah, start with you. Tell us the year of your film and just like a little bit about why you think we should be discussing this film.
So my film also came out in 1985. It's the same year as Witness. It's very hard to describe this one, but I would say it's also about a man entering an already established community. That's the most wishy-washy way to describe it.
Okay.
And there's also a lot of sexual tension that does have a bit more of a payoff.
Okay, excellent. So we've got the brand new community with sexual tension from 1985. I think that will go to my film. So this is slightly changed from what I told you. Okay. Because...
Well, the year you told me, which I had no idea what you were talking about.
Okay. So I was going to jokingly suggest from 2003 Daredevil, because I thought going from, you know, somebody witnessing a crime to somebody who definitely can't witness a crime.
Okay.
My film this time is actually going to be from 1992. So specifically, I think the thing that we collectively agree on with Witness is that we're a bit frustrated that we didn't get something with a strictly linear progression of exactly how this crime solving was going to go down, and therefore the resolution of solving that crime was quite lackluster. This is a film that is very much set up with a single premise of we are going to reveal what happened in this crime, and it's just looking at everything going forward, but also very much embodying the spirit of Witness. It is done in non-violent means. So this is a very dialogue-heavy film in which there's like a lot of discussion about going forward, and specifically you watch all of this play out, and it's really, really interesting. The final connection then is that this is somebody who we know as at the moment is sort of like an action star, somebody who is like the kind of like Liam Neeson's sort of figure now. But this is back in his early days where his career was very varied, and this is one of his star out roles, including a very, very infamous scene between him and another famous actor that most people quote all the time. So that's what I've got coming for you. So my talky drama from 1992. Let's go to David next.
So again, we've had a lot of family dramas and violent films or thrillers, crime-related stuff recently. So I think it's best to kind of like go into something completely different. And that's why I'm going to a film from 2015. Again, this is one which I won't give too much away, but I think it's very relevant to talk about at the moment because of the summer season we got coming up for movies. So this link is purely just by the title. So the fact that the film we're discussing today is called Witness. One line, which can be quite infamous from this, mentions that word, but also with the word me at the end. So there is the proclamation of witness me, and this is in a film which is linked to something which has got another part of the franchise coming out this year.
Interesting. I already think my assumption of what that film is wrong now. But like, okay, I might just not know my current pop culture of films very. Okay, so we've got David's relevant Witness Me style film from 2015, and finally we go to Aaron. Tease us about your film.
So my film is from 2012. It's a Danish drama. It's a very heavy watch, but it connects thematically to Witness in the sense that it kind of does the polar opposite of what Witness does. So whereas Witness is about someone who is wrongfully accused for something and is hiding in a community, this is about someone who's already established in a community, gets wrongfully accused of something, and that community then turns on him. So that is why I've picked it in terms of its connection to Witness. And that's all I'm going to say about it. It's Danish, it's from 2012, and there is a notable actor as the main star, but I won't say who it is because that might give it away.
Okay, the question is that actor in this film?
No.
Cool. You've all passed the test.
I had to think about that for a second. I was like, hang on a minute.
Okay.
No.
So, fantastic range of films that we have there. The way this will then happen as usual, the winner of this endgame will choose any one of those films. So it could be their own, it could be their opponent's, or it could be either David or my film suggestion. So, are we ready to play a price you can afford?
Yes.
Okay. So for the first 4 questions, your maximum bet will be 500 points. What I want you to do is I want you to DM David on Zoom with both your bet as well as what the film you're going to answer is. So David, if you can get the chat up ready, please. Perfect. All right, so we'll start off easy. So your first character this time, Han Solo.
You have to be specific.
Like I said, I will accept, if it's from a franchise, I will accept any film in that franchise.
This would be bad if I get this wrong.
Okay, so you have both bid 500, and would someone like to say their film?
Force Awakens.
That is, I can accept. So your score goes up to 1,500. And then Sarah?
Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
I can accept. So your score also goes back up to 1,500 because you got your original 500 back as well as the new 500. Fantastic. We're now going to slowly ramp things up. Okay? So your next character is Bob Falfer.
What the hell?
At the beginning of this podcast, I was like, "Yeah, I've not seen too much Harrison Ford," so now it's like, "Oh God."
I'll give you a hint for this one. So this is one of 2 films. So this is so either the film could be title, or the sequel is literally just the same title, but then 2 at the end. So that's typical one.
Oh, I know.
Ooh, there we go.
What was the maximum bet?
500 again.
Oh, I don't know if I'm that confident.
Oh God.
Oh, didn't mean to split it.
I completely blanked.
I'm screwed after this one though.
We'll see. Okay, interesting. So you've both gone. For at least the same film franchise. So you've gone for
Anchorman.
And you are both.
Oh.
Wrong.
I was looking for American Graffiti.
There's a sequel?
Yeah, I didn't know there was.
No, but that's what I was trying to say. Because also he's only spoiler. He's only in Anchorman 2. So I was trying to say, well, either accept American Graffiti or American Graffiti 2. But that means, unfortunately, you lose your bet. So Sarah, you bet
300.
300. So that means you go down.
We're now showing the dangers of gambling. See, this is all going downhill.
David there being sanctimonious, knowing how much money he spent on claw machines trying to win Simpsons dolls. I'm also looking at 2 of his prizes from those machines as well.
Hey, there was a return on some of those investments.
Okay, are we ready for the next film? Again, maximum 500.
Yep.
Rick Deckard.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so you've both gone for, again, you're both bidding 500. You're both saying that the answer is Blade Runner or Blade Runner 2049. I can accept
Yeah.
both.
Easy money.
I love if
Gambling's fun.
these. I love if these numbers were part of the titles, like Blade Runner 500.
Give it time, it will be.
Yeah.
Okay. And now the next question. This is your final one, which is the maximum is 500. Okay. And again, there's one of two films where this character appears. Jack Ryan.
What is the name of the films?
That is the game.
Ay.
That's a trick question. It's not.
I'll give you a hint. One of them has been mentioned today.
By anybody in the world.
Oh, that would be cruel. Although it does remind me of a Taskmaster
know.
bit where one of the tasks is draw the second longest snake, and David Baddiel goes, "What in the world?" And everyone just breaks down.
Oh God.
I'm just trying to like, my brain's trying to work in terms of like what is Harrison Ford's back catalogue.
What I didn't realize is if it's literally, because it's either this the same character or it's two different films, different continuities where the character's name is exactly the same. Okay, so we've got one answer in.
It's not right.
Okay, so we'll start with Sarah then.
Oh God. I put The Fugitive, which I know is wrong.
Unfortunately, it is. Aaron, what did you go for?
I think this is one of his films, Clear and Present Danger. I think.
Yeah,
sounds like one of his films.
So I could either accept Patriot Games, which was the film that was mentioned earlier in the podcast, or Clear and Present Danger. So apparently they're the same continuity. So that is an extra 300 points to Aaron.
Oh dear.
Cool. So now we move on to the next phase, and the maximum bet for this is 1,000 points.
Oh Jesus.
I would like to remind you, you can only bet as many points. You can only bet 1,000 if you happen to still have 1,000. So
let's not go too renegade.
Me.
We're teaching about gambling here, guys.
Okay, so this is probably going to be the easiest one of this particular set. We want President James Marshall.
Oh, Aaron knows it. Oh, God.
I've not said it, but it's the only one that came to
Do you know
mind.
what? He's not the president in that.
It helps if I can spell it.
What's he a president in?
What's the maximum on this one? 1,000?
1,000, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to picture.
It's a $1 million
IMDb?
drop. It's a £1 million drop, I should say. Do you watch it all?
He's
all
not
the
in
way?
it, but I'm gonna go it. I'm gonna say it because we're gonna have fun here, guys. If we don't know the answer, let's have fun
Yeah, true. That's the spirit.
and minimum money.
Okay.
Grease 2. Oh.
Okay, so Aaron, what did you guess?
I went with Air Force One.
Okay. And you bet 500. Sarah?
I've put Mars Attacks. There's a president in there somewhere.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's played by Jack Nicholson in that film.
Another grey white guy.
Yeah.
So the question then is the answer Air Force One? Which it is.
I can see how this is going to end.
This is where Aaron was like, he knew what was coming. And at the beginning, he was like, yeah, I don't know Harrison Ford films that well.
Yeah,
and then now he's like, come out like,
This
I
is the
actually
thing.
know all his films.
No, I know the names. I've just not seen half.
That's how it's evolved.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, to be fair, if I had to play this game, I would have no chance, pretty much. All right, let's go to the next one then. So we go from President to Colonel Graff.
Army film.
It could be an army film.
I think I might know what it is. Then.
Yeah, this is something that David has stopped me from using in the past.
Think recent. That's all I'll say. Think recent Harrison Ford.
Okay, the one film that I thought of was like the 70s.
Recent.
Yeah.
Like, not like recent, but, in
I
terms
don't know
of...
if this is a film or a TV show.
That helps.
Oh, I'll tell you, these are all films.
But I don't know if I've put a TV show.
Okay. I'll give a small...
He's in it.
I think that is a TV show.
Oh, God.
So I'm just gonna...
I don't remember him being in this, but I'm putting that anyway.
Okay, so we already know that Sarah has guest Morning Glory.
He's in it.
Okay, Aaron, what did you go for?
I don't think he's in it, but because I haven't seen it for bloody ages. But I went with Zero Dark 30.
Okay.
I kind of love that. That's like, once you hear this, you'll be like that named character could be in a gritty, realistic war film.
David, what do you think the answer is?
Ender's Game.
It is correct.
Oh Christ! I forgot you were in that.
So yeah, alien colonel, not
he is
American
indeed an
Army.
outer space guy.
Graph.
He's a space guy.
Okay. All right, moving on. Next up, we have Mac Tannen. Mac Tannen.
Sorry, all I'm thinking now is somebody somebody
actually
serious in
sounds
Zero
familiar
Dark
for some
30 being like,
reason.
we need to find Osama bin Laden. Colonel Graf, what do you think?
I just tuned into
I'm
that
just
bit.
so glad that guess wasn't for when it was president, because I was just like,
Yeah.
Zero Dark 30 was about the killing of Osama
Yeah.
bin Laden, and we know who president was then. I just want to ask at this point, Sarah, are you confident with your bet? With your guess?
That I'm 80% confident in that.
Cool.
one.
But you've only bid 50% of what you could.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know what I'm at.
I'm struggling with this one.
Should I have gone all in? That's the question.
It's up to you. I mean, hindsight is a beautiful
No.
thing.
Sarah's
What
like-
I would say is that for genuine gambling addicts, we probably don't want to emphasize the idea of like, oh, imagine if you only had bid more.
This is maybe Sarah's just like in Golden Ball. She's like, I'm absolutely gonna split. There's no way I would choose. And maybe
Okay.
this is just a trick.
All right then. So Aaron, you seem to be less confident with your bet. What did you go for?
So I know a very young Harrison Ford is in Apocalypse Now, so I'm just presuming that's his character name.
Okay.
So I went with that for 100.
And you
So
are
I'm not confident.
unfortunately you are incorrect for that one.
Yeah, I thought so.
Sarah, what did you go for?
I reused Anchorman 2 because you emphasised the name. And it sounds a bit silly.
I more emphasized it because I wanted you to see that there was like first name, surname rather than like one long name. I didn't want you to think his name was like McTannen, and therefore it's like. But regardless, the answer is correct.
Yes.
Yeah, because which news network is he from? Like the Scottish one or something? Is that?
Yeah, I can't.
Cue clip here.
All I can remember is that Liam Neeson is hosting the History Channel, and they have like the Minotaur and like the ghost of Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah.
There will be a mint julep waiting on the other side, son. Release your soul to me.
Final film of this phase, or the character, I should say, is you've got the character Drummer.
What?
Was he in Stomp? Like, what's going on?
What kind of a name is that?
I'll give you a hint. He's not the only action star in this film.
Just imagine that.
Oh, no. I got confused then. Oh, I don't know. We're having fun on an evening, can't we?
I'd like to think so.
I mean, you've already suggested that Harrison Ford could be in Stomp, so like, can this get more
Just make
ludicrous
it
than
all a
that?
musical.
Yeah.
You said action hero, I write this.
Yeah.
There's more than one action.
Fair, okay, yeah, I can see the logic there.
Okay, so
It's not in it.
No. Maybe the latest one. Maybe he's like alongside Megan Fox.
I'm just pulling something out of thin air.
right, Sarah, what did you go for?
I put the Expendables, which is not in, but it's action man heavy.
Aaron, what did you go for?
I just went. I don't know why I added the 2 on the end, but I went Expendables 2.
Okay, because here's
I would love if he was like
here's
in
the
one
thing.
other.
It's Expendables 3.
Oh,
so
okay,
like,
yeah. Oh, so yeah.
Oh,
so here's the chat. I did say if you said the franchise.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So I am going to
True.
honor that, and I'm going to give you your bets, even though you didn't get the specific film. I meant that more for if he's in multiple of it, but
Wow.
Look, you need the points. I'm going to honor
I
this.
can't believe that's right.
Yeah, I think he has. It's like a
We
cameo or
somehow
something.
darted around it and still got points. I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I should have bid more.
So, going into the final phase, I'm just going to tell you what the scores are, because this might influence the way in which you play for these last 5 questions.
How much of an addict you become?
Yeah, 5 questions. Okay, so Sarah, you have 2,000, so you've managed to double your initial score, which is pretty good.
Excellent.
Aaron, you're on 2,700, so you've close to tripled it. And for this final round, there is no upper limit.
Oh my god.
All or nothing.
No upper limit. Okay. Are we ready
All
for
on black.
Are we ready for character number 9?
Yes.
So we've gone from drummer. Now we go into rooster. I think I'll be fair on this one and say that this isn't a nickname. This is literally he's a rooster. This is an animated film. He's voicing a rooster.
Oh.
I was gonna say, yeah. I was like, is this the name of a character or the animal, the species?
I don't think I can take Harrison Ford seriously if he's literally like just a middle-aged guy called Rooster.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've got an animated film in my head that's like focused.
I
on
think we're both
birds.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll be
thinking
I'll be
of one.
intrigued if you actually are thinking of the same thing.
The problem is, I'm still on like the military sort of thing in my head as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
It's his
oh,
Top Gun
this is
name.
not- This
That's
isn't
his
right,
call
but
name.
I'm putting it in anyway, so I'm betting low because I don't trust my brain.
I don't know
Okay.
if he's in this.
Okay, interesting. So we'll start with Aaron.
I know this is wrong because it's like a 99% like British thing.
I know,
But
I was
went
like-
with Valiant.
Yeah, I was like, wow, what a throwback.
I mean, it's a
I was thinking
spectacular
of that
guess
as well.
if you're focusing on the military, but still
Yeah.
having to come up with an animated
That's still
film
just like
with
in my
birds.
head.
You could be
It's not leaving.
Sadly, it's wrong.
a
but-
valiant effort, you could say.
Okay, but the question is Sarah's correct? So Sarah, you went for
Spies in Disguise, which I've never seen, but I know Tom Holland gets turned into a pigeon.
again rational. Incorrect choice. The film that I was looking for was The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Oh.
Never seen that.
I was going to go for Home on the Range. Because I thought there's all like
yeah.
Western
Yeah.
characters and, so.
Yeah, no, it's Secret Life of Pets 2. So I've seen the original. I have a fondness for the original, despite the fact it's not a great film. I've not seen the second one. Okay. Right, are we ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yes.
next up we've got Rusty Sabich.
Why does that sound like a drag queen name?
I'm pretty sure like they will, but they'll actually just put the T.
Yeah. And everyone's like, Anchorman has already been said.
Yeah, it's a silly name. What else have they done that's silly?
Oh god.
Doesn't do many silly films. Any clues on this one?
Please.
I'll tell you up front, it's not a silly film.
Yeah, I was going to say, just get
Oh,
away from
God,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
I would say that if until you are guilty, you are.
Actually, my brain broke for a second. Was like, if you're not found guilty, you're clear and present danger.
Yeah.
It just didn't work in my head.
Especially considering you've already answered that. So it's like, did he have multiple
Yeah.
personalities
Yeah.
in that film? So, Sarah, you have guessed,
Proven Innocent.
and Aaron,
Is that
you have
right?
guessed.
I think I know what. I'm going with Sarah on this one because I didn't know whether to put like proven innocent or presumed innocent.
Okay, and you've
So
answered.
I put presumed innocent.
Okay, one of you is correct. The answer
not
I'm
me.
looking for is until you are guilty, you are presumed innocent.
To be honest, as
was
soon
the
as
until.
Sarah said proven innocent, I'm like, oh Christ, is that actually the? Is that?
Yep, no,
is
it's
that
it's
the actual
it's
term?
presumed innocent. Ali Fox. I know nothing about
That
this film, so I can't
sounds-
give you. Ali is spelled ALLIE.
Was he in? Maybe he was in that. Oh, what was it bloody called?
Again, I'm betting low for a lot of these because I'm not I'm not confident in my brain.
Okay, so Sarah, we'll start with yours.
think it's Bombshell.
Am I looking for Bombshell?
Decent guess. Decent guess.
It is a good guess.
Aaron, what did you go for?
So I remember him. I haven't said it, but I remember him being in like Call of the Wild, where it's him and a dog, and I'm like, the outside, him being called Fox. Surely they couldn't have been that on the nose, but I went with that for 100.
You are correct. They weren't that on the nose. This was
the other Fox angle.
Yeah. It could have carried on the theme of like having an obvious name that you should.
I mean, there is an animal in this title. It's called the Mosquito Coast.
Oh, no, I have heard of that.
Was that another Peter Weir film?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where I've heard it before.
Okay. Your penultimate character is John Thornton. What I love is I've just done a couple of actions to David that the listeners at home can't see, and our guests won't understand.
I'm at the point now where I'm just recycling like ones that weren't right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, yeah, that's got to be right at some point.
I don't think this has been said, so I've put that.
Okay. So Aaron, you have guessed.
I've gone for Apocalypse Now again because I know he's in it. I just can't remember the character name.
It is unfortunately not Apocalypse Now. Sarah?
I put The Fugitive because that feels like a famous one. I don't think it's come up.
It is sadly not The Fugitive. You know, you said you were recycling answers from throughout the quiz. Aaron, if you had literally recycled your answer from last round, you would have got it because it's Call of the Wild.
Oh, man.
Oh,
gutting.
You see, I am stupid.
What's his? What was the name again? John
Thornton.
Yeah, I guess it kind of sounds, book wild.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, and now we go on to the final question of this game. So, we are looking for Branch Rickley. Branch. Yep, branch. As in tree branch.
If it's
Branch
Call of the Wild
Rickley.
again, I'm gonna...
I'll give you...
It won't be Call of the Wild again.
Can I steal Apocalypse Now and write it as my answer?
It's not Trolls, I'll tell you that.
I have no idea.
And just to remind you what your final, your current scores are going into this. Sarah, you have 1,500 points. Aaron, you have 2,500 points.
Oh, I've got nothing to lose. Let's go all in. Or do I? Because what if Aaron bids?
Well, your reputation, I guess, what you would be left with. You could be one of the highest.
David.
You could be one of the highest scoring Endgame contestants ever, or one of the lowest.
Negative numbers.
Thankfully, you can't go negative with this in this particular situation.
Good.
Because you can't bid more than what you've got.
Yes, yeah.
What was the character
Which
name
is the
again?
lesson of gambling.
Branch Rickley.
That sounds like a man's man. That sounds like actiony, shooty man.
It sounds like a cough lozenge.
What's that? That sounds like somebody the Well Good Movies chat group would be attracted to.
Not naming names.
No, if he was in that, he wouldn't have a stupid name.
Who knows? Maybe you'll find the meaning of life in this game.
Found something. I don't think it's that.
Higher than usual, but I know I'm probably wrong.
That's the thing. Do I risk is Aaron going to go?
This is the thing.
This is the mind game that I intended with this scoring system.
I'm just going to say it again. I have no answer.
Okay.
It's going to appear. I'm determined.
Okay, so we'll start with Aaron then. So you have bid.
I've bid 400. So I've kept it low, but not as low as I have been.
Yeah.
And I've gone with Working Girl because I know he's in it.
So unfortunately, you are incorrect.
Yeah, I thought so.
And Sarah?
I put The Fugitive all in. All my chips are in.
So you've bid 15 1,500 on The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited that you did that for content. You are incorrect.
Yes.
I did give you a subtle hint when we were talking, but I think both of you missed it. I said maybe you can find the meaning to life in this game.
Is he? What's that? Tree of Life? No.
Nope.
Wait, is there actually a film called 42?
There is indeed a film called 42.
I didn't know there was a film called 42.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
Chadwick.
not a bloody Hitchhiker's nerd.
Well, you'd have to be a Hitchhiker's nerd and then know the other film that 42 is. But yeah,
but I thought we've referenced it enough on the show that maybe it'll come up.
Chadwick Boseman baseball film is what 42 is. Where so then Harrison Ford, you said like old man. You know, we've been talking about like being an old white man and stuff. Definitely, that's who he was playing. If you can kind of. Old man with glasses,
the glare
vibe. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my life.
He's like a baseball executive, basically. I don't know. Yeah. If you
The more you talk about it, the more it is coming back. But I just completely forgot about that film.
Okay.
Existed.
Well, we've reached the end of that, and I think it is safe to say that Sarah, you are the
biggest loser.
You are the people's champion, and I love you for the fact that you did do that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you do end on this game on 0.
Excellent.
That sounded like you were about to do the speech.
Reverse psychology.
The speech.
You know, they're like, I award you no points.
Oh, yeah.
You got that mercy on your soul.
No. Like, you've done nothing to offend me with this game. It is said with absolute adoration. But the winner with 2,100 points, we do have our first time contestant, Aaron. Congratulations. Woo. First Endgame win. How do you feel?
I'd like to thank the Academy, my
Harrison Ford,
and and Bench, whatever his name was,
Branch Rickley,
yes,
and Rooster, and all the people,
Alan, and all the other names that you've been called. We'll just add all these names to that list.
And Aaron, I thank them all. I couldn't have done it without them.
Okay, so. You now have the choice ahead of you. So there are 4 films. You can have your choice, Sarah's choice, mine or David's. For the next episode, you don't find out what the film is until you choose it. So if you're going to choose anyone else's based on discussions or whatever you want to decide. So which film do you like the sound of from the explanations?
The thing is, knowing what mine is, this is the thing. I don't want to depress you guys, and it's a very heavy film. So I know what my film is. So I think I know what David's is as well, which is why I'm leaning towards it, because it's one of the ones I actually know what it is. But then Sarah's one sounded intriguing. Oh, God.
You don't want a sexy man.
No, we already got Harrison Ford once today. I'm going to play it safe again, like I did in the game. I'm going to go with David's because I'm like 99% sure I know what it is.
Well, how much are you betting on this? You betting that 2,000?
I'm all in.
All right. Well, in that case, David, so tell us what it is that made you choose this film, and therefore what it is we're discussing next episode.
Well, I chose this because, again, I thought it was enough from what we've had. You know, there's still the kind of violent tendencies and the sort of action that we've had recently, but again, thematically and kind of the world is very, very different. And I thought it would just be nicely tied in with the film that is coming up this summer. And the fact that we have talked about this film before, but it hasn't had a dedicated episode, so it runs along that theme of celebrating movies that we have in the vault. So this is already in the vault, and that is Mad Max Fury Road from 2015.
Witness me, bloodbag.
Yes. So, yeah, that is what we'll be discussing next time. Thank you, Aaron, for choosing my choice.
I had a feel, as soon as you said your description, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
sure
as soon as I was like, oh, this might be vague, maybe with the witness. And then as soon as I started saying, I was like, oh no, this is very hard.
The moment you said "witness me," I was like, okay, I know. Yeah. I just forgot that there's actually a Fury. It's Fury. The Furiosa.
Furiosa is coming out this year. Yeah. At first, for some reason, I thought that it was just Witness. I thought they did say like I had to rewatch the clip, and I was like, oh wait, no, they say Witness Me, because I was just imagining them.
I mean, I only remember that. I remember that ironically from a Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay. Well, it's like I remember them saying like Witness Me, but I remember like when they're like driving and they like you see them like on the car. I thought that it's when they say that they might have only said witness.
So for those who want to watch along with us, where can we watch it?
So currently, as at the time of recording, you can catch it over on Sky as part of your subscription there, which also means then you can catch it on Now TV as part of the cinema package as well. So that's where you can catch it subscription-wise. Apart from that, you can also rent it on all the usual places like Amazon, Apple, Sky Store, YouTube, and Rakuten. And of course, you've got physical media. So if you want to catch it on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, the black and chrome edition, whatever you want to go for, should be readily available, especially if you want to get ready for Furiosa, as I mentioned. So yeah, thank you, Aaron. And definitely want to take us into the exciting summer blockbuster season. So yeah, it's been a fun one today, guys. We've gone into lots of crazy discussions from a film about the Amish and being on the run, but yet we've talked about crazy kissing in the fields. We talked about death by corn and the many endings that this film could have gone into, including Harrison Ford going back to the future. So please do tell the people at home, where can they catch you? What sort of stuff have you been up to? Sarah, what have you got going on, and what socials and platforms should people go find you on?
What have I got going on? I'm not too sure. I'm really over on TikTok at the moment, doing sort of shorter sort of reviews. That's Sarah's Popcorn Chat. Otherwise, it's on YouTube under Popcorn Chat, talking about latest releases. And I want to delve a little bit more into older films as well. But yeah, Sarah's Popcorn Chat, Letterboxd, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you want to do.
LinkedIn, that's a new one. Aaron, where can people find yourself?
So I'm on TikTok and YouTube under the name Aaron at the Movies. Most of my other socials are the username Arun Azza. So just type that in. It's, I've kind of blanked all of a sudden in terms of what I do. I haven't, but most of the stuff I do on my YouTube channel is talking about films that I want to talk about. I have an ongoing series. It's like a half podcast, half discussion series called For the Love of Film. Sarah's been on it before. And yeah, I've got a few videos lined up, but I don't really know what I'm doing at the moment. So yeah, just see what I'm doing. Yeah, I've butchered that, but I always do whenever I'm on these sort of things.
It's fine. You got your name right, so that you did better than I've done from the intro.
Don't type in Alan at the Movies.
No,
you'll just get like
middle-aged man.
Although that is now a dedicated fan page I want to create for you.
I'll happily.
Alan at the Aaron at the Movies.
Right. Thank you, guys. And yeah, it's been fun. Please do go check out both those YouTube channels and subscribe and keep commenting, sharing, liking, everything to keep all this content live and kicking. And thank you everyone for listening along and joining us for the conversation. Please do carry on the chain of movies with us now as we are into this new century, as we said. So go check out Mad Max Fury Road. To keep up with our sort of progression of films, see where it leads us next. Craig, anything lastly from yourself?
Mad Max Fury Road is very much like an Amish woman in the rain. I can't wait to get my teeth into it.
Fair.
Oh god.
This is Sarah's intro again, like, oh god.
Yeah.
Right.
You've got a bank of me just saying that.
Yes. Right. Thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
To keep up with the latest episodes of Well Good Movies, you can listen to us on all your usual podcast outlets, including Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and more. Don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and rate us where you can to keep our podcast growing. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Well Good Movies to keep up with the latest news and highlights from all our episodes, as well as tell us what movies you want to be discussed in the future. So what are you waiting for? Go check out the film we'll be discussing in next time's episode.
And then he's just buried by corn at the end.